We will open this video up with a tweet from 2 days ago, because the Nikita Zadorov leak wars are indeed hilarious as tweeted out by Tej. Either the Canucks pay him $5 million for 5 years, or they don't. He's getting that from some team. This is pretty straightforward. Now, the reason we're starting this video off with this tweet in particular before diving into all the extra stuff that was said by Elliotte Friedman and the guys on the Canucks Conversation podcast is because when it comes to Vancouver Canucks expiring UFA Nikita Zadorov, there's a lot going on here that kind of contradicts one another. We're hearing from some sources that negotiations are going well, we're hearing from others that negotiations are not, and Ian McIntyre, Rick Dhaliwal, the agent are all coming out there and saying different things, so this is certainly very interesting when you acknowledge where the momentum seems to be going. Hockey is a sport of momentum, not just on the ice, but in terms of the rumors. When you start to hear certain ideas picking up steam, more often than not, you'll see these ideas manifest in a transaction, whether it's a trade or a signing or whatever. And for Nikita Zadorov, the momentum is going all over the place. It's going up, down, around, forward, and back. We don't know what's going to happen here. But Zadorov, after coming off of the stellar playoffs that he had, all the same questions that we keep on bringing up are there. If the Canucks bring this guy back, are you signing this version of Nikita Zadorov that had 14 points in 54 games and for the most part was okay? Or are you bringing back this version of Zadorov? 8 points, 13 games played. He was near flawless in the playoffs, and he was so clutch, scored so many goals, and was just an offensive contribution machine while also being a shutdown beast. This version of Zadorov was awesome. And if the Canucks are willing to shell out some money to keep him around, they have to be sure that they're getting this version of Zadorov, because this version of Zadorov, the regular season version, unfortunately is not really worth like $5.5 or $6 million bucks. The playoff version of Zadorov, though, that guy's invaluable. So let's go out there and talk about some of the extra conversations that we had seen about Zadorov. Here is Buck Foston. Let's check in on the negotiations between Zadorov and the Canucks. And attached is a story from Zadorov's wife on Instagram. Yeah, last days in Vancouver. Okay, that's not ideal. It's a nice picture, don't get me wrong, but yeah, this was posted the other day and a lot of people started to think, oh, look at that, Zadorov has officially left Vancouver. Wow, he's gone after golfing with Dan Murphy and JT Miller on the court, or not the court, the course, right? That's what they call it? I don't know anything about golf, I apologize. But Nikita Zadorov did indeed spend his last days in Vancouver, or assumingly it's gonna be his last days right now. So yeah, that's totally a great way to go out there and see that he is actually leaving. Either way, let's go out there and see some of the other tweets that go over Zadorov before diving into the scoop. Wyatt Arndt went out there and tweeted this. Honestly, if Nikita Zadorov signs with another team, he's pulling off a fantastic Costanza. Nailed his moment. Now he's leaving on the highest of notes. That dude's legacy will be cemented in this town forever. Remember that playoff run from Zadorov? That dude was amazing, quote unquote, and that, of course, is gonna be the sentiment of this guy if he decides to leave and get the bag elsewhere. Honestly, the Canucks management needs to have a line in the sand for money and term. You can't go full Jim Benning. So as much as I loved watching Zadorov, as a team, you need to stick to your guns on price points, especially on a one small sample size run. Chronic basically fell off and brings minimal to no physicality in the playoffs. That's playoff hockey, pay to win. There is definitely a point where you could spend more in the hopes of securing a guy who you know can go in the playoffs. I just think Zadorov isn't that guy. The Canucks cap is way too tight to roll that dice. So there are a lot of philosophical conversations that bring themselves up as to whether or not you bring Zadorov back or how much you sign him for, because there does seem to be some contention with that. He can get a lot of money on the free agent market because of that playoff run that he had, but of course Vancouver, they have their own hand in trying to see what happens as well and how much they could get him for. When it comes to that, though, this is what Elliotte Friedman said on the recent 32 Thoughts pod. I believe that Nikita Zadorov has a number, and it might be a little less than what he can get in the open market. I don't think Vancouver is far away from it, but they haven't hit it. Since he's willing to give them a bit of a break, they have to get to his number. Elliotte added that he doesn't want to get involved in all the infighting in Vancouver right now. He mentioned if Zadorov gets to the open market, he knows he's going to be happy with what's out there. So, even though Zadorov can get the absolute bag in free agency, common thought by Elliotte Friedman right now is that he's actually willing to give Vancouver a discount to stay in Van. Now, what that discount is, we'll see. If it's $5 million, if it's just a shade above, if it's just a shade below. Honestly, if it's like 4.7, I really think about it. Of course, we had that conversation in the past as to whether or not it's worth it to give anything above $3 or $4 million to a guy who would essentially be a third-pairing defenseman behind Soucy and behind Hughes, or if you wanted to have Soucy and Zadorov playing the same amount of minutes, having the second and third pairs diversified equally, then okay, that's a philosophical thought as well. But Friedman going out there and saying that, yeah, Zadorov is willing to give the Canucks a little bit of a discount is significant because it goes to show just how much he enjoyed playing here and how much he would like to come back. They also posted a piece on Canucks Army. This is from Tyson Cole from yesterday that goes over a few of the extra Friedman quotes on the recent 32 Thoughts pod. I believe Zadorov has that number, yada yada yada. When it comes to Zadorov, I don't think they're far away, but they haven't gotten there. And because I think Zadorov is inclined to give them a bit of a break, they have to get there. Vancouver is trying to make the best deal they can. They're not there. I don't think this is impossible, but I think they have to get there. Hey, talk about repeating yourself over and over. Sounds like me, honestly. Because I think Zadorov knows if he goes to the market, he's going to be happy with what's out there. Now, this article goes out there and finishes off with some of the extra thoughts. I also wanted to refer your attention to this piece published by Clark Carlsson from earlier today, also talking about Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm from the recent Canucks Conversation podcast, because Quads and Harm ended up having a few great things talked about as well. Maybe Zadorov believes he can get 6x6 in the open market, and the discount is 5.5x6. This would still be a really steep price, and it's a number you have to think twice about, Harm said. If there's a scenario where that number in his camp's mind is 5.5 and the discount is 5, all of a sudden you're getting to the territory of 5.5, or 5x5, or 5x6. It's still a lot, but it's not a crazy number anymore, and you can seriously consider it. The discrepancy matters a lot. I'm skeptical because this seems like it's all in the mind of Zadorov's camp, Quads added. The Canucks might believe if they go to the open market, they're not going to get their number and are actually going to get what they're saying is a discount and want to go to free agency and circle back. These negotiations are very complicated, and a discount, quote-unquote, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a team-friendly number that the Canucks are happy with. If it was, they'd already have signed him. There's so much to think about from a sequencing perspective because you only have a certain amount of cap dollars and you have other needs. When you're making these potential offers for a Zadorov or a Lindholm, you have to map through and plan so many different scenarios. One of the most underrated parts of operating as a team in the offseason with multiple needs and some cap flexibility is these decisions aren't happening in a vacuum. Every decision has a strong trickle-down effect on every other decision you have to make and every other target you may or may not be in on. So that's a pretty interesting thought to have about it, how this entire conversation seems to be held up from the perspective of the Zadorov camp themselves. Ultimately, it boils down to how much Nikita Zadorov is willing to sacrifice and whether or not that number is okay for Vancouver. As I had said, if it's under 5, I gotta do it, like, immediately. Yeah, Zadorov 4.9, boom, there you go, he's back, baby. 5-6 years. It also was reported that the term is not an issue here. The Canucks are okay with going 5 to 6 years with Zadorov, even though it would take him till he's 35 years old, for example. But it's just that dollar amount. Would they be comfortable giving this guy X amount of dollars until he is 34, 35 years old? And how exactly does that translate into a contract? What's that number? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these updates with Nikita Zadorov, how Friedman is saying that there is a discount that Zad is willing to give the Vancouver Canucks, but whether or not that discount is fitting for what the Canucks have in mind, we'll see. We'll see if there's a contract done. We'll see if these negotiations that are so wishy-washy, people are saying it's working out, others are saying no, it's not. and then you have the media wars that are being sparked because of it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Canucks and Nikita Zadorov. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.